Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design, and this is my new NION 2 stove. It's an update from the original NION, and it's just a better stove. The original NION had two thumb screws, one on each edge, that both did a thermal transfer. The NION 2 has one thumb screw in the middle for filling, and another thumb screw with a bent top that is thermal transfer. Now, if you're going to run this stove after you fill it and close the thumb screw in the middle, if you're going to run this stove on high, you simply spin this bent thumb screw over so it's pointing towards the jets, and the jets will hit right on it and preheat it and superheat the fuel. If you want it on low, you bend it in this direction, swing it in this direction, and you'll get a much more passive, slow burn for a simmer. And if you adjust your windscreen, which is a big part of this, you can bring the boil time right down so an ounce will last for 45 minutes, maybe longer. Okay, so let's go to some video, and I've got some pieces that'll show you how to use the stove. I've got some video of boil times and how to light it and everything else. So let's go take a look at those. Okay, let's fuel this NION 2 up. Now the first thing you've got to do is remove the thumb screw. What I do is I swing this jet up out of the way, this thumb screw up out of the way, the bent one, spin it. Excuse me. What I'm using today for a measuring device is a 35mm film canister. Now, once you get your canister full, just dump it in. I usually dump it in at 2 or 3, and it'll run right down the center really fast. Because I'm going to run it on low, I'm going to swing this jet down around like that. You can see that. That's for the low setting. Now if I was going to run it, if I wanted to run it on high, I would swing the jet around like that. Okay, now I'm going to run it on low, so I'm going to swing it back again. There's a jet here, 2 jets here, and 2 jets here. So if you want to prime it and you don't want to lose your alcohol, put these jets at 90 degrees of the ground, and the alcohol is low enough so it won't even come out the jets. You can tilt it up, and you can do your prime right there. Okay, now when you go to light this, when it first comes on, it's going to be a little dramatic, like all the alcohol stoves are. And then after the initial burst of energy and roar, it'll settle down, and you can adjust your windscreen accordingly to get the right burn. But it's especially important, if you're going to burn this on high, it's especially important that you use enough fuel to get it to roar so that the jet flames will come over and preheat the filler screw and really get it going. And then once it does get going, before the flames start to roll back, put your pot on top of it, put your windscreen around, and tuck it up some to keep the flame. And then after it stabilizes, maybe after a couple of minutes, you can adjust the windscreen one way or the other to get a good solid burn that's not too hot and not too cold. If you're going to burn it on low like we are, there's not nearly so much of a rush. It'll initially come on, roar, do its thing, and then just wait a minute until the flames don't touch in the middle anymore. And once they start to drop back, then put your pot and windscreen on and adjust it so that there's about the width of my finger between the left and right flame is about right for a low simmer. I'm going to turn the lights out. Now, how much alcohol you use to prime this has you know, a pretty big effect on how long it takes for it to settle out. And also, if you overfill the stove, you'll get raw alcohol out the jets, and it'll pool in the center of the stove, and that's just not going to work. It can't come up to speed, and it's not going to work right. So if you do notice that you're getting a pool of alcohol coming out the jets, just wait till the prime burns off and then just blow it out and start over again, because it just will not work with too much alcohol. I try not. This one's been going about 10 minutes, and I've got the water up to a boiling temperature, and the flame is settled. I've got the windscreen adjusted now, so I've just got a good low setting. 2 separate flames, about 1 inch long, and that's the way it should look on low. Now on the other side of the coin, this one over here is on high, and you can see the flame on the left is coming right straight across. And actually I should run this a little bit off center, because the flames don't tend to run in the middle, they tend to run over to the right. And you, okay, this one's stabilized now and it's running on low. It's been running long enough to boil the water, so I can flip up here on top and show you what the simmer looks like with the flame, the low flame pattern. Got the windscreen out away from it. It's about 60 degrees in here, and that's what it should look like on low. Two separate streams of fire with about 1/2 inch between them. And if you adjust the windscreen right, it'll stay like this for the whole 40-45 minute burn. Trying to do this without fogging up the lens. So you can see it's got bubbles coming up from the center of the pot, the hiney pot. Frugal burn. Perfect for like cooking soup, like you've seen me do in my Tinny's kitchen. Just a nice slow burn. And if you put the lid on, it's just a good setup for simmering. Okay, this one I've got on high. I've got the windscreen around it fairly tight to keep it going on high. And this is like a 15-minute burn on an ounce. And you can see significantly higher burn. And the boil is a hard rolling boil. It's good for heating water really fast, but other than that, I really don't have any use for this hard to boil. It's not what the NION's really about, but it's capable of it if you want to. Okay, this is what it should look like on high. You should have two distinct flames over the top of the filler screw, and it'll usually shift the flame. As you can see, it's more predominant on the right hand side because the left hand jet tends to come across quite a ways. Now if this flame, you can't see two distinct flames, you just see a big ball of fire, you've got your windscreen around it too tight and it's just too hot. And if you look at the jets and you see that, like this jet in here, if you see that the flame doesn't follow it all the way down to the stove, if there's a big air gap before the flame starts, then you got your windscreen around too tight and it's starved for air. The flame should come right from the stove up. There shouldn't be any gap in between them. If there is, it's just starved for air. You need to cut more vents in your windscreen or whatever you have to do to give it more air. Okay, we're looking at a NION 2 now that the windscreen's been put around it too tight and it's actually overheated. And you don't have two distinct flame patterns, you just kind of got a big flame in there floating all around. That's just too much heat. The windscreen needs to be pulled back and let it calm down. Now you're starting to get two distinct flames again once it starts to calm down a little bit.